what I'd like to start with is, in your own words, what would you define a revenue sharing public benefit corporation to be? What is the significance of having that title in our repertoire?
Yeah, that's really twofold. The first part on the revenue share side, that falls right into the share economy, right? So I think everybody's getting really familiar with Uber, Zipcar, different companies like that. Sue, obviously, they grow by 10,000 users a day, and that's really part of the new share economy, and that's the company sharing its revenues with its users instead of kind of blowing the marketing budget right on advertising firms. On the public benefit corporation side, we decided to file that paperwork because we believe we could get that filing, and that is really being able to show a little bit more fiscal responsibility than the next C corporation. It allows us to be profitable, but it also allows us to kind of announce to the world what we're doing differently that benefits the public more than anybody else. We received that classification almost overnight. Obviously, when you're sharing up to 80% of your revenues with your users in hopes to help them fund what their passions are, that's kind of a slam dunk, right? So that is something pretty cool to have on our website. And, and I think it makes everybody comfortable as far as expansion and global expansion to know that we have a little bit more transparency than anybody else does in the C Corp arena, that is. So that's the short answer to that.
No, that's great. And I know it is very significant. So that's something that we need to just have part of our vocabulary as we're sharing this with people. So thank you for that. One of the other things is it's really being said out there that Smashfund is becoming a disruptive model in crowdfunding. Can you describe what makes Smashfund so disruptive?
Absolutely. We are the only crowdfunding company. Out of about 1,200 crowdfunding companies around the world, we are the only crowdfunding company sharing its revenues with our users. And that's in hopes to actually fund our user base. We want to be the biggest backer of our user base. We all know that crowdfunding is super exciting. It's growing quickly, but there can be up to an 89% failure rate for a lot of reasons. I mean, I think a lot of people know what those reasons are when you start digging into different sites and what people are posting. But if people build a network and a user base on our platform, then that's when Smashfund comes in and actually acts as the biggest backer and helps that person fund whatever they're trying to get funded, right? And so I think everybody else in the space would have a really hard uphill battle to compete with what we're rolling out. So it's a game changer. And like I said, we are the only company doing this. There's no other competition, period.
Exactly, and that revenue share is going to make it just insanely popular with a lot of people. And let's talk about that a little bit, about the crowdfunding. Can you tell us about the equity-based crowdfunding? That's something that we're all beginning to really start to educate ourselves on, and that's becoming more and more popular out there. And I know that you spoke with Ruth Hedges and talking about maybe even you speaking at one of the national conventions for crowdfunding. But can you just talk a little bit about the equity-based and what's coming in Vegas?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, we haven't even announced this to the company yet, right? So the entire user base hasn't heard this announcement. Kind of fun to be able to share on this phone call to a certain extent. But obviously, the equity-based, which is also regulation-based crowdfunding, is absolutely exploding. It's what's going to take crowdfunding into the trillion-dollar industry by 2020, between 2020 and 2025. It actually allows everybody to go out in the public and get funding for giving away equity in maybe their business or idea or, whatever they're trying to fund based in maybe even the invention space, right, or the technological development space, whatever it is, they will be able to come to our platform, raise funds, but give equity away in that business that they're trying to start without going the traditional routes of a VC or a PE, right? And let me just tell you how exciting that is as an entrepreneur. We've all had these great ideas. We've all been willing to give away equity in our companies, but you have to go through the different hoops, right, to find the right VCs, find the right PEs, and it's one at a time. So we're going to be the platform that allows all these creative people to get these ideas up with literally thousands of investors, hundreds of VCs looking at these deals and being able to invest. So obviously that's not where we're starting, right? We're starting on the donation side, but when we roll out the equity component, it's huge. It allows not just our users to post their deal, but it allows our users to be part of that deal that they brought to the table. That does not exist with any other crowdfunding company, period. If you look at even Fundable, for example, they're a pretty big guy that's in the equity space already, but they are not going to do anything for you if you bring a potential deal to the table. We have a vehicle that we're going to be rolling out. It's absolutely awesome. Our VCs and our SEC attorneys have been working on it for quite a while, and it's going to allow our users to take part in that equity raise in that company that gets traction raising funds on our platform. I'm going to leave it at that. There's so much we could talk about. It's truly, Patrick, it's a game changer. It's amazing that our users will be able to be a part of as many deals and have ownership in as many deals as they want to. I mean, it's wild, absolutely wild.
Rob, a lot of people, we got a lot of novice. In fact, I'm one of them about crowdfunding. So I don't know a whole lot about equity-based stuff. I don't know.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that are somewhat intimidated by that whole thought. Is this going to be regulated? Do I got to take a test? Do I got to do all these different things?
Yeah.
But we're going to be able to simplify that, correct? For the
our user base doesn't need to worry about all that. That's why we bring all the staff and all the attorneys with all the right licensing to make it happen. So we do all the heavy lifting. Our users aren't going to have to do any of that. This will be like Shark Tank on steroids, times 10,000. I mean, it's going to be absolutely amazing. But people will be able to post their project or their passion and give away equity in that idea if they choose to do so on this platform without going through all the hoops. We'll have people who will help set the deal up, discuss how much equity will need to be given away to make it happen, all that good stuff, and have thousands and thousands of eyeballs looking at it every single day, and everybody being incentivized to make sure that deal gets funded. But I can't stress enough that the regulation behind all of this is pretty intense. And so that's why we spend the time and the money to make sure this is all rolled out properly, to make sure that everybody's compliant from day one, and we do all the heavy lifting. A lot of companies think maybe they could just roll into equity-based crowdfunding, and they won't be around long. They just won't. It's pretty labor-intensive, but kind of our philosophy, right? Fisher Price easy, no moving parts, Disneyland attractive. We need to do the best job we can to make it super simple for everybody. But you're going to see a lot of dreams come to life through the equity side. Coming into the convention, it's not going to be ready by the convention. Ruth Hedges, obviously, super instrumental in all aspects of crowdfunding. And then we're pushing for Q4. That's when we're pushing for the equity-based side. But we have our hands full, and with everything that's going on now, we have enough for people to be super excited.
Awesome. All right, well, tell me a little bit more about the timeline with international expansion, if you will, and the global bank that you were talking about earlier.
Well, global banking is absolutely critical when you start to expand internationally, and having the right relationships. Obviously, HSBC is a big backer for international banking, but things are tightening down, especially because of terrorism, right? Money laundering. Things are a lot different outside the U.S. and Canada. So we spend significant resources making sure that we have all those assets in place. So we've been working heavily on the banking side internationally. There's a few things that happened recently that will allow us to push into different countries and territories quicker than we thought. Not quicker timeline, but quicker once one country's in, the next country, back to back. So we're looking at possible expansion Q4. Originally is in January to start pushing into other territories. And so it's going to be a balance. It's going to be a balance between international expansion and also rolling out the equity-based component. it might be kind of a perfect storm. You might see a lot of that start to take place in Q4. But I have to tell you that I think the U.S. and Canada is going to be super, super small compared to the reach we're going to have around the world. I mean, we are literally bombarded every single day with requests for different countries, people that are already on the ground over there. They're ready to expand. They're excited. But it takes a lot of framework to make that happen. But you could see companies like Uber, they make it happen pretty quickly now. Sue makes it happen. So we work with a lot of the same assets and resources, and so we're excited about it.
Well, that's awesome. We already have people on the call from Australia tonight, so we're pretty excited about that as well. So that's going to be exciting to see that unfold. So next question I have for you: what's next, Rob? What's coming? You were sharing and leaking out a little bit about these videos, and can you just share a little bit about that and what's coming up next in the next few weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I touch base with our entire team almost every single day. We have a pretty large staff at this point, obviously, for what's coming. They're still on target, they said, for end of June, early July. You're going to start seeing quite a bit of a push next week. Different brand assets coming to life, what the brand looks like, some of the functionality, and they're going to start warming everything up to get the doors open. This is much more than creating just a crowdfunding platform, if you will. We found that through the beta process, what people wanted more than that is they really wanted a social network with crowdfunding functionality. And so the build it's amazing. It's an absolutely amazing build. We own everything, by the way. This is all of our technology, ground up. We own it. And we want to have it any other way. But when you do that, it takes time. It has to be done right. So V1 is what everybody's expecting to come out pretty quick. That is the kind of the guts and the first rendition of social networking capability, and then also the crowdfunding functionality. And then the first explainer video. I'll tell you what, if there's anything that I get heat for, it's getting the darn explainer video out quickly, right? Everybody wants just one video to come out from the company. And so I'm pretty picky with those things. I'm a kind of a design guy. I'm a brand guy. I like to make sure that everything looks absolutely amazing. So I've been reviewing the script every single day. Last I looked, it's down to 297 words for the first explainer video, and it kind of runs through what crowdfunding is, first of all, and then second of all, how our model is different, how the revenue share works, and trying to keep that all between 2 and 3 minutes is crazy. And it might sound silly, but these little videos between 2 and 3 minutes, they cost tens of thousands of dollars. They're not cheap to get done, so we want to make sure we do it right the first time, and then if we get the first one right, then we could start to splinter off little short segments that maybe talk about how to use this feature or use that feature. But it's funny because you would think, well, people really know what crowdfunding is now, but to be honest with you, a lot of people don't. They just don't know what it is yet. And the other day I came across an explainer video for Pinterest. Pinterest wasn't getting off the ground like they thought it would. I know it sounds crazy now, but they had to come up with an explainer video, 2-minute explainer video. This is how Pinterest works, and you used to have a bulletin board when you were a kid, and this and that. It was really funny. But we want to do a good job on making sure that first video is amazing. I mean, we use illustrators from Disney. I mean, it's going to be pretty cool and fun. It's important for it to be really fun. So that timeline is on me. And so I know I'll get all the crazy hate mail and all that, but it's me that drags the feet on that because I'm the last say on the video. So if there's a color I don't like or a word I don't like or a voice I don't like, then I slow it down. So, but they are on track to roll that out this month. It's pretty exciting. Okay. So
you think by the end of June we might be able to see a little teaser video?
Well, our delivery date on that is 6/20. I might have pushed it back a little bit yesterday, but we'll see. They're working hard on it.
We'll say July 1st just to keep everybody.
Right? Yeah. Oh,
right.
Yeah. Let's under promise and over deliver. That's what my team keeps telling me. But hey,
we got a bunch of leaders on the call now, so we gotta, that's something that they're aware of as well. So, well, let me go into some of these yes and no questions that you and I discussed.
Sure.
And we're just going to smash through these things. It says, what outsider will an outsider who's not part of Smashfund be able to see the campaigns and donate if they'd like?
Oh, absolutely. We are a crowdfunding company, of course. Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're in your network. Yeah, backers from all around the world could come onto your profile just like anybody else and contribute.
And we'll be able to put these the Smashfund logo with that campaign on our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those social medias too, right?
Of course. Yes.
Can you give us a lot of?
We're going to be delivering all of those assets to everybody. And right now, one of the things our compliance department struggles with is so many people making their own videos and all this stuff, and some of it's good, and some of it causes a lot of work for us.
Right.
But we'll keep on delivering more and more assets, and hopefully people won't feel the need to do that in the future.
Gotcha. All right, I have another question. If a person of mine drops out and they have a few personals, do their personals leave also, or do they always remain viral?
They always remain viral. Absolutely.
Great. There's also talk about it in other countries that are, low income per month. People, in Russia, have an income of less than $150 a month. Will we have a different monthly premium fee in Russia and other countries that are more depressed economy?
Yeah, so what we're going to do first, what we're going to have our hands full with is expanding around the world at the price point we're at and in English. Okay, so we could penetrate hundreds of millions of people by doing that first. There's a lot of reasons for that, specifically around technology. The second thing we'll do is start to look at additional languages and one additional price point. We've already landed on what the other price point is, because you have to think ahead for this, right?
Sure.
And so we would be looking at 2 price points around the world in the future. But first and foremost, English-speaking territories, the price point that we're at, so which currencies match up with that, obviously, and also rolling out equity/regulation-based.
Great.
Those are priorities at this point.
Awesome. And one of the practical questions that everybody's asking is, there are people who want to know when the day launches, whatever that day happens, when the credit cards are run, how are you going to roll out people having their credit card swiped? Do they have a chance to, if they don't want to do it, do they pull back? Which obviously I wouldn't recommend quitting on the first day of a company opening. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but fear is involved and people don't know,
Sure.
So they want to see. So do they have an opportunity to say, you know what, hold off on my credit card, or will they be flushed out of the system? How does that work? How's that going to flesh out?
Well, what will happen is all the functionality will start to go live, and everybody has an enrollment date, if you will. So whether that's the 1st or the 3rd or whenever, everybody came in on some date. So all the functionality will start to go live, and then people's cards will be run on that date that they came in. So it's not just going to be this hard slam, right? It's going to be a nice, smooth rollout, and everybody's going to have a lot of communication from the company. So nobody's going to be blindsided. Nobody's going to get email that says, hey, your card's being charged right this second or tomorrow. There's going to be plenty of leeway for that. The people that decide not to, devastating for them, because right now everybody's kind of tight within this social graph. It's like being at the beginning of Facebook before that social graph really went viral around the world, right? So the real estate that is being taken up right now will never exist again, and people will walk into these positions maybe in the future, and maybe it'll be like hitting the lottery. I don't know, but anyways, it is going to be a nice, smooth rollout, and people will get to look and touch and feel as these cards start getting run each day.
Okay. So to make it clear, let's just say we launch July 1st, and if I came in on May 10th or June 10th, that day, on the 10th of July, then I would have my credit card swiped, and then it would just go that 30 days. By the end of that 30 days, everybody's credit card will be swiped. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then if they don't, and if you pull out, you actually lose your spot. I'm sure there's somewhat of a grace period on that, but you will not.
There is. Patrick. There's a 30-day grace period, and here's the disclaimer: if something changes with any of this, everybody's going to have a ton of notice. As everything stands right now, this is exactly how everything's going to work. But even if somebody's card doesn't go through or whatever the case is, there is a 30-day leeway there. So yeah, we don't want people they're on vacation, right? And they don't want to be taken out. So yeah.
No, I know your heart in that, and obviously we want everybody to succeed, and we want everybody to make this thing and give it a viable try, to make sure that they can take advantage of this first mover advantage. And like you said, this is amazing real estate where we're all sitting right now. It's never going to be duplicated in the history of this company ever. So we're, obviously we're very honored and thankful that you've started this company and that we've heard about it when we did. So that's awesome. So let me go to the next question here. When will we officially open our doors?
I don't know the exact date. Anybody that's on the line that's a developer, why. And I ask these guys every day for a date, and they tell me, here's the window. And so it's so much technology that comes together, right? There's different APIs. There's, a lot of ground up things that we've built out. Then there's a lot of compliance that's loaded in. So there's so much that comes together at one time. And then you kind of hit the button and you start flushing bugs out from day one. So the only thing I have for you is on that window still, late June, early July. And like I said, our communications and social team, they're amazing. They're not going to catch anybody by surprise.
And I've heard that the website's going to look pretty amazing. Can you give us any insight on what that's going to look like, or what the what the social media is going to look like?
Yeah, very clean, very symmetrical. It does have somewhat of a Facebook feel. I guess if you were to try to peg that down a little bit, and maybe on the profile side, on the actual crowdfunding profile component, probably looks quite a bit like Patreon. They're kind of the cleanest in kind of the artist space for crowdfunding. So that'd be a pretty good visual, I think, between the Facebook and Patreon.
Well, I know that you guys are putting out some great emails, and the branding that we're seeing already through your emails is spectacular. So I'm assuming that will all be in line with what you've got coming. So in closing here, Rob, what I'd like to ask you is, what would you say to the new person that maybe just heard about this, or all of us are new, for crying out loud? I mean, what would you say as a call to action over these next 4 to 6 weeks before we launch? This is really a magic moment that we'll never, ever have again. Some people, are sitting down waiting, but other people aren't. They're ready to go now. And what would you say to those people that we should be doing in this with our activity over the next 4 to 6 weeks?
Well, I would say for the person that might be on the fence a little bit, let them stay on the fence. You do not want to convince or push or, make somebody uncomfortable that they're going to lose the opportunity. And because we're not that kind of company, we will have millions of people on this platform, regardless. We just will. If somebody thinks that they're a super big influencer, either they're going to come on and bring everybody, or somebody else will get to older people before them. It's just the way it works. But I have to say, being an investor and investing in so many companies over the years, my best investments were when nobody else saw it. It didn't quite get the vision. And I was able to come in, and I was patient, right? I was able to go through the ups and downs, through all the betas, didn't complain too much, just try to have faith in the people I invested in, because there are going to be the ups and downs and glitches here and there. But I think everybody on this call would rather go through the ups and downs and all the growing pains if they could be part of Apple in the beginning, Microsoft, Uber, Lyft, right? I mean, you want to be part of that. And I have friends that said, oh, man, if you would have told me about that investment, I would have been in. But the reason I didn't offer that investment to them is I knew they would have been a pain. They would have been a pain. And so stay away from those people that you know might be a pain. Anybody that is kind of a forward thinker, you got to tell them as soon as possible. Otherwise, they will be devastated if you didn't, because it could mean the difference of just thousands and thousands of dollars over the months and the years as we build this out. So I'd leave you with that.
Fantastic. Well, Rob, I really appreciate everything you said tonight. I know you have to get on to your next appointment, and I'm going to go ahead and close out the call, but I do want to release you and just let you go and finish your night. And I appreciate you being on the call. I appreciate everything that you've done for us and the opportunity that you've given us, and we're definitely going to take advantage of it. So thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Patrick, thanks for having me on the call, and everybody that's listening right now, just thank you so much. Thank you for having a great vision and just letting us impact